We were talking to the consul general, and he was like, you guys should come to India. And we were like, yeah, like that would be so fun. We were all excited and talking to him about it, but we thought it was more of a hypothetical invitation. But in truth, he was being genuine.
The following is a Big Sky Economic Development production.
Welcome to The Vault, a Montana-based business podcast where we highlight the people and ideas driving our region forward. I'm your host, Marcel Bruschi.
You're listening to The Vault.
Today, joining us on The Vault is someone very special, and we just met and got connected here, but you recently were with the Montana World Affairs Council in India, a graduate from Lockwood High School here in our Yellowstone County community. I'm just going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your upbringing.
Yeah, so my name is Laira Larson. I have lived in Billings and gone to Lockwood my whole life, K through 12. I got to watch the high school be built, which was a super exciting experience, and I'm so grateful for the community there. I think one of the most exciting things I did during my time there was join the World Affairs Club that one of my history teachers, Mr. Kersher, started, and that was connected through the Montana World Affairs Council. So I joined it kind of on a whim, my beginning of my junior year, and got really into it. And they had such incredible opportunities, and they facilitated all of these amazing events, especially with Lockwood, like being so far away from where some of these events were being put on. The fact that they were so supportive of us going to all of their competitions, it was so helpful, and it really helped me find an interest and a passion in this. And then for EconoQuest, my senior year, me and two of my fellow teammates, Emily Brandenburg and Izzy Giesel, ended up winning that competition. And the Consul General of India for Seattle was one of the judges, and he ended up liking our presentation and sponsored us to go to India for 2 weeks this summer.
Wow.
And that was an incredible final senior summer trip, a cultural experience. And then all three of us were seniors, and we've gone off to college, and I'm currently at Yale studying, hopefully, global affairs or ethics, politics, and economics.
Wow. You're just so impressive. And Nikki speaks so highly of you. So I'm like really, excited because she's like, oh my gosh, you have to meet these students from Lockwood. And I adore Nikki. And so you had that club at school. I'm just going to walk us back a little bit. You have a World Affairs Club at Lockwood, which is really cool. We did not have that where I grew up. So it sounds super cool. What really led you to think, because you said you did it a little bit on a whim, what was it about that club that you're like, I might try that this year? It sounds interesting. What pulled you into it?
Yeah, so for a long time, I had thought I was going to go more the STEM route, but one of my friends, actually, Emily Brandenburg, had been in the club the year before when it was started. I joined it its second year, and I joined because of her, and also partly because of one of my history teachers, Mr. Kersher, who had started it. I was taking his class, and he was talking to me about it, and so I joined it just thinking that because it was fairly new, it was something I was going to try out. I didn't think that was something that was really calling my name, but it ended up, I would be spending nights doing research for the projects, and I would be going way deeper than I needed to, but it was really fun and really interesting. And I think that was kind of what made me realize that maybe there's more to this than I thought.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, you mentioned some projects, and then the one that really got you guys to go on that trip, which I can't wait to hear all about the trip. What were those projects that you're working on? What are you deep diving into? And then you're just you're like, oh my God, this is so interesting. I have to keep digging, even though I maybe don't need it for this thing, but I'm just going to keep going anyways. What were those projects?
Yeah. So the two big events that the Montana World Affairs Council puts on is EconoQuest and then WorldQuest. So EconoQuest, the best way I found to describe it is the science fair, but for economics. And then WorldQuest is a big trivia style competition. And I think they're both a lot of fun, but I really like EconoQuest because you get to personalize, you make a little trifold board with a Montana industry and then how it connects to a region in focus and the global supply chain. And you do all this work with opportunity cost and comparative advantage. And I remember looking the first year, me and my one friend Emily chose bioscience as our industry. And I remember getting into it and looking at all of these numbers and looking like how this industry is growing in Montana, looking at how complex the global supply chain was. I remember I'm forgetting the name of the exact website right now, but there was one that had all of these really interesting connections between a lot of industries per state and then per country. And I think there was a moment where I was looking at them, at all of the numbers, and I thought, I just grew really fascinated by it, which wasn't something I was expecting to happen.
Mm-hmm. And what were those things like that, like as you're looking at numbers and some of those things, like what were those curiosity moments that you maybe experienced that like kept pulling you in?
I think it's really easy when you think about like the economy or industry, like it feels so big and far away and kind of abstract. But I think in doing these projects, you get a much narrower and more detailed view of a specific point, which I think was a very good entryway into getting interested in this because it takes it away from being this big complicated thing that it doesn't seem approachable and into this topic that you know a lot about and you can then present and tell other people about. Like I think the way that EconoQuest is structured, it really opens up economics and the presentation of a specific topic or a specific industry to make it palatable to high school students and to make it interesting, because there is that aspect of competition. I know I'm a competitive person, and the way it was set up and the way that we were introduced to it, I think was a really exciting opportunity that there was nothing else in my high school that kind of was similar to that.
Mm-hmm. So who are you? Like you're at EconoQuest. I get to go next week for the first time as a judge. Can't wait. I'm not fully sure what it's going to entail, but I feel like this conversation's helpful. Who are you competing against when you're there?
So it's a bunch of high schools from all over Montana, and schools can have multiple teams. So I think we had around 3 teams both years. It seems like 3 to 4 usually, and you pick an industry in Montana. They give you a list, and then they give you a list of topics that you have to hit on or talk about. And then the rest of it is free reign. You have a trifold board that you can decorate however you want, as long as you have all of the points that they need. They include a bit about making like a social media post for the people in that area and focus to tell them about why your industry is important, so that you get practice making all of these big fancy words you've learned about like palatable and condensing it down. And the rest of it is pretty much free reign. You have all of your information on the board. They have a little spot with social media posts where you can take all of these big fancy words you've learned and condense it down so that it's palatable for the audience of your region of focus. And you work on making your presentation for the judges as they walk around. And then the last few get to the final round and you present it in front of everybody. And then the panel of judges can quiz you.
So like all of the attendees. So you're like making your way through and then it's like, okay, now everyone is eyes on you. Here are the judges. Let's hear it is the style, the format. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So tell me about like, what was your guys' project and how did you prepare? Because clearly the 3 of you with your presentation caught the eyes and they're like, we wanted to send these students and bring them to India. How did India come to be? All of those things. I'd like to ask a lot of questions. So we'll start with how did you guys like work on what did your presentation look like and entail? And how did you work as a team to do the presentation?
Yeah, so Emily, Izzy, and I have been friends for a pretty long time, like since freshman or sophomore year of high school. And so we already worked together very well, I feel. And so in our global affairs club, we were talking and there was a lot of really interesting legislation and moves happening with semiconductors between like the US and India and the ASEAN countries, which was our region of focus last year. And we thought it would be an interesting industry to pick. So we started with that and then kind of divvied up who was going to do which sections from there. And I think a big thing, all of us are at speech and debate and we like to make our boards like cute and fun. And I think a big thing with us was we we made our presentation very cohesive. We did like semiconductors, microchips, and our title for the presentation was All That and a Bag of Chips.
That's cute. It's
How
catchy.
yeah. And so I think like the freedom to be a little bit creative with what could very easily be like a really boring trifold board full of a lot of really dense information was something that I think we tried to balance and ended up balancing really well. And then also all of us like being familiar with speaking in front of people, really like divvying up the information, making sure we all knew what we were talking about. I think we were all interested in the topic, which was a really helpful thing because we were able to learn it without so much of it wasn't a boring task to get into this project and to make it together. It was really fun. And I think it ended up creating something that we were all really proud of, which was a good feeling.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys, just with the research that you did too, that it wasn't just surface level information that you had. It was like detailed, in depth, so you could maybe answer some of those questions that maybe you did get from judges that you're like, oh, we got this. Like, we know all about it. Our board's fun, but we really know what we're talking about. And when you're presenting, like, give us a little bit for those maybe listening that aren't as familiar with EconoQuest or things like a science fair, different things like that, of how you structured your presentation. Like, what were you guys, how did you present it? How did you present all of your information on your board?
Yeah, so we kind of laid it out as sequentially as we could. We started talking about like, what are semiconductors? How does Montana contribute to the semiconductor supply chain? We have something last year, it was recently passed, the CHIPS Act, which was meant to fund and like help semiconductor production locally, like in the US. And that was a really big thing. I believe, I'm trying to remember, it was like within a month, because EconoQuest was near the end of October, there had been 3 big deals between the US and India. One of them was the Space Force collaborating with an Indian company to build a semiconductor fab in India. There were a couple others that are like slipping my mind. We went from like, what are semiconductors, how it connects to the global supply chain, then how it connects to India specifically. Then we talked about our social media posts. So we kind of went from like big picture and then narrowed as it went.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was our strategy.
That's really cool. And you clearly, the 3 of you, then progressed and presented right in front of everybody.
Yeah, and I think like you were saying, having the more in-depth knowledge definitely helped when we were being quizzed, because the panel of judges, some of these people are in this industry. Like the Consul General of India for Seattle was there. Like they were asking us these questions that were, I believe the Consul General even prefaced one of his questions. He was like, you weren't like expected to know this, but like maybe you didn't do this like research, and it was stressful, and it was also kind of fun when we were on stage in front of the mic, because we like look between us and then like one of us would have the answer, we'd go up and answer it. And like our combined knowledge, like we ended up handling the questions really well. And so it was a very fun dynamic to like see how we were all working together to answer like these questions that were being thrown at us.
Right. And it sounds like because you talked about it a little bit, but you 3 had like known each other. There was a lot of trust there that you're like, okay, we got this. And you did, right? So then you go through, do you get like a medal or something, or just when you're done and they're like, hi, they win. What is that like?
Yeah. So they announced all of the winners. They did like 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. And so when they announced 2nd, we were like looking between each other. We're like, oh my gosh. They gave us like a plaque. We took a photo. We took photos with some of the judges. We shook the Consul General's hand and were talking to him a little bit, because for part of winning, you get a scholarship for any college of your choice. And then if you went to MSU, you got an extra, I'm trying to remember how much it was, like an extra scholarship for a study abroad fund, which was really, really cool. And I remember we were talking to the Consul General and he was like, you guys like should come to India. And we were like, yeah, like that would be so fun. And we were like, we didn't think it was a genuine suggestion. I was like, we'll have to use our study abroad money on it. Like we were all excited and talking to him about it, but we thought it was more of a hypothetical invitation. But it turns out that he was being genuine.
He was very serious. So how did that, so you guys go from EconoQuest right in the fall. So fall of 24, if I'm not mistaken, 2024.
Yes.
And then you do this India trip from just an idea being tossed out of, we would love to host you in our country. And then you get to go. When did you find out that it was like legit? You're like, oh, this is like real. We don't have to use our study abroad. Like they're really sending us and taking us over to India.
So it was actually the next day that we found out, because we had driven up to Bozeman for the competition. We drove back, had school the next day, and like our advisor for EconoQuest called us all down in the hallway, and we were all worried. We were like, oh, what happened? And she gathers us all, and he's like, so I got an email. And then he told us, and we all it was such a surreal moment to hear that we were to hear the words, you're going to be sponsored to go to India for 2 weeks. Like, it was so insane. I don't think any of us believed it, but it was such an exciting moment too, because we had done all of this research on this place and had been thinking about it and working with it for so long. And then the idea that we were going to get a chance to go, it was so exciting. And all of us went off into little corners and called our moms because it was crazy. But I think it was such an exciting moment to get to think that I would get to spend 2 weeks with them exploring this place, learning about this culture, and to know that all of the hard work we had put in was going to get to take us there.
And you all did that, and it really paid off. So, and what a surreal moment, and how special that you all did get to, and you're all there, right, learning that together, that it's like, oh my gosh, we get to go on this trip together from this competition we just did through the Montana World Affairs Council. When did that then, okay, so you find out, you tell your moms and your family, and then what were some of those things that happened next to then get you to India?
Yeah, so there was a lot of conversations that we were really involved in just because they were working out logistics. I know WorldQuest, the second big event that the Montana World Affairs Council puts on, it's later in the year. And the winners of that competition also got to come with us, which is super exciting. It was a group from Missoula. They were all so, so sweet. And then as it got closer to the end of the year, closer to summer, we started getting stuff to fill out for visas and figuring out dates that would work. And I think that was when it started to really become real. We found out where, what states we were going to get to go to, where we would be staying. That was when it became more tangible. I think that was when I started to get really excited. So I'm oh, I can do research on all these places that we're going to go, figure out what it is we get to see. That was a really fun time, just building up to it.
And I'm sure all three of you were just hanging out, planning, chatting about it all of the time. And then it comes, so it's you all, and then the group from Missoula. Allie, I think, went with you too, right?
Yes.
Allie?
Yes, Allie and her daughter came with us also.
Cool, from the Montana World Affairs Council. So tell us about when you went and what was that like? Was the Consul General there too? Did he come over, or you just were over to India and on your...
Yes. We made a stop in Seattle where the consulate is, and they had a little send off for us. And then when we came back, they had a reception too. It was very sweet. They were really great with making sure that we were prepared, making sure that we were ready and knew what was happening. We left near the end of June and got back early July. So it was very hot. And so they were very aware. They were make sure you're drinking water, make sure that you had breathable clothes. They were very, very helpful in making sure that we were ready for everything. But the reception was really sweet. I know we got to see a little bit of Seattle. We got to see the Space Needle. We got to see the consulate, which was really cool. We were hosted by universities when we stayed there.
In India?
In India, yeah.
Wow, okay.
They were all so kind and welcoming. I think the hospitality culture is a big thing that like me and Emily, as you were talking about, like it was so welcoming everywhere we went. And I think that was a big takeaway from our trip. It was such a good experience.
And what were some of the things, and I think I've went to the embassy once too in DC, the Indian embassy, which was, I mean, not to this, obviously the country, but just very hospitable and just different cultural norms that are really fun to experience when you're not as used to it from just being in, our culture is very different in America. But what were those things that you all got to do on your trip while you were there?
Yeah, I think we got a lot of like the sashes, like we got when we like at the send off. I think I counted like 8 or 9 when I got
like, wow.
and they're great memories. Like I look at each one and I remember when we got them, but we got like I'm trying to remember. I think it's roti, like the powder.
Okay.
And then like the marigold garlands, a lot of just like people to show us around. I think one thing that we all really liked, especially when we stayed in Uttar Pradesh, we stayed at the City Montessori School, which is a K through 12. It's like the Guinness World Records biggest like school.
Wow.
And they had for a couple of the days, like as we were being shown around, they had members of the high school student council show us around. And so they were like our age.
Fun.
And I think getting to talk with like our peers pretty much who had grown up on an entirely different side of the world was a really fun experience. Just like getting to know them.
What was that like? Like, what'd you learn from them?
I think it was really fun because we were both equally curious about the other person's lives. Like they wanted to know about like why we were here and what we were doing, what we thought. We wanted to know what they thought of us and like if they had any questions. Like it was a lot of just like asking what they do in their free time, like asking what school is like for them. I think that was it was really fun just to see how curious we both were about how different our lives were.
Mm-hmm. But like commonalities of like the curiosity of each other, right? Like you're all going to school, You're all doing like same age, very curious about the other, different things like that.
Yeah. And it was really like, it was kind of fun because the whole, like, we would kind of sat up at a table and they had like an assembly kind of thing where they were all listening to us and we would introduce ourselves. And I think for a lot of the trip, talking to them and getting to know them like on a personal level, because I'm also just a teenager. Like I think for the India Trek experience, a lot of it is a lot of the groups they've taken have been a little bit older. And so they are more like a mentor to a younger student. But with us talking to these students, we were their peers. We were in their same situation. So I think kind of breaking down that wall a little bit of being like the person behind the table to the person like next to them, that was a fun experience.
That sounds really fun. And so when you're with these other students, right, these peers, you're building friendships, you're learning more about their culture. Were you guys doing like, where were you going when you're there, right? Like, so you're spending 2 weeks there getting to see, and you said traveling across different states is what they call them. Is that right? Yeah. So different states. What were you seeing and how are you spending your day?
Yeah. So for the first day, we spent it in New Delhi, just kind of getting settled. And then we spent a week in Orissa, and then we spent a week in Uttar Pradesh. And so we were hosted by universities in both cases. And we had a pretty good mix between like doing some more sightseeing kind of touristy stuff, but we also did a lot of looking at like touring the universities themselves and seeing what they did for students. We got to see a lot of really cool humanitarian work that the universities were doing and that like temples around were doing. I remember one instance that really stands out to me, this food kitchen that supplied meals for like all of the schools within like a 10-mile radius. And it was, wow, I'm trying to remember how many it was per day. It was like over 1 million, I think, students per day. I'm sorry I'm not wrong. It's been a couple months.
It's been a couple months and now you're in college.
Don't quote me on that,
like,
but it was a staggering number. And like they didn't they were a nonprofit. They just did it for the community. And I think the way that all of the temples we visited really acted as a community hub was really, really cool. Like I remember before going, I had done a little bit of like research into like Hinduism and religion in India, because India's a really diverse country. Like I know it's easy to say that, but I think being there, you really realize just how many people there are. They have like 26 official spoken languages, and I think it's like it's like over 1,000 different dialects like in the country. It's crazy. And so I think being there, you realize just how much diversity there really is. But each of the temples we went to really acted as its own little center for like the people around. And I think it was really cool to see how they worked with their communities and how they gave back.
Yeah, I bet. And that's a lot. Can you imagine? I mean, like that's a lot of dialects, different things to remember. And like growing up in something like that is just surreal, right? It's really different than we speak English, you know? Maybe you speak Spanish or some other languages through school, but what a surreal experience. And to see that, and just what were some other notable things that, you know, now you're in college and back in the US that really stick out to you from that trip that you learned? So church, the communities, the people.
I think all of the students were very impressive. Like I think this was something that I really noticed a lot, that like academics culture between the US and India was, or at least like from Montana and India, was very different from what I picked up on in the time I was there. I know driving down the streets, like especially in Uttar Pradesh, they have like billboards, like each of the schools has billboards with like the top students and their scores on like the national test. And that is, I just like, that's something that you don't see in the US. And all of these students, like they spoke Hindi and English. And then I think some of them, I think they also spoke French. And then like in Odisha, they have a regional dialect. It's like Orissa. And so they, like when we were there, the people spoke that language as well. It was just very impressive to see the difference in attitude and the difference in approach. I think it was also a lot stricter and like more narrow than like my educational experience, for example. Like I would not have been able to go into college still not knowing what I want to do. Like they know, and they have a track they are set on from like freshman year that they decide. But that was really interesting, like just talking to like the students our age, talking to them about what their education was like. I think it was really interesting seeing how religion was viewed and how it was present in daily life. Like a lot of the cars we got in to go different places, they would have different like drawings of the different Hindu gods, like in the, like how you would see in the US a Virgin Mary or a cross hanging from like the window, or you would see like this is something that me and like we all kind of talked about as we were coming back, but they don't eat beef in India because cows are like holy, and something that like we knew going in, but I think it was really interesting to see like all of the temples that we visited had cows in the back. Like,
and you guys come from Montana, so you're like,
it was like beef. And like it's something that you can know that that's the way it is and like expect it coming in, but I think being around it and experience it, like it makes you realize it in a different way.
What did you guys eat? Like, what were some things that you're like, because I love traveling, and one of my favorite things is, I mean, the culture, right? Like just immersing yourself in it, but also I think part of that experience is eating what the locals eat. So what were some of the things you ate?
Yeah, we ate a lot. This food was so good. That's definitely like a part of the hospitality culture, is like feeding your guests. I remember before we left, the consul general and his like assistant Dash, who helped us a lot. He was very, very kind. They told us, they're like, you can't eat your plate empty because they'll put more food on it. And we definitely learned a lesson. But like we had all the staples, had like butter chicken, dal, naan, roti. We had like pani puri. It's like a little fried like cup with like this flavor or like spiked water inside, and that was really good. I remember we had it's like Indian ice cream, but we had this pistachio kind when we
Ooh.
were in Odessa, which was really, really good.
That sounds yummy.
So much food. It was also delicious, and the love that was behind it, like you could tell this was a part of the hospitality culture, and it was definitely like we felt very taken care of when we were there, like at every meal. And I think that was a really fun experience to like get to sit down and try something new every night.
Oh yeah, and just special too, right? Like they're there, they're hosting you, and they probably were so thrilled. I mean, from what the sounds of it, that they loved having you there and sharing a little bit of their culture with all of you students from the United States.
It was this is a moment that was really, really special. I remember when we were visiting the City Montessori School. It was during the 4th of July. And they like threw a little party for us. It was so sweet. They had like leftover fireworks from Diwali, like the Festival of Lights. And so they like set off a couple of fireworks, and they had a little cake with like an American flag on it.
It's so cute.
And I think that was a moment that really stuck out to me, because they didn't have to do that, but they knew we were missing it, and they like went out of their way to have something special. Like that was so kind and thoughtful of them.
Mm-hmm. Where I think what that sounds like, right, is traditions are very important, and cultures, those traditional things are very important in India. So you see a lot of the religion, the food, because everyone comes around and gathers to that. Like us with our, they have holidays that they celebrate in big ways. And for us, the 4th is that. And so just honoring you all with that on your visit there sounds really special and sweet, right? Like it was unexpected, and you're just like continually impressed by the hospitality that they showed you.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you're back and in school, you're at Yale, which is very, very impressive. And now that you've done the trip, I'm assuming it changed your life in a little way, right? Like a little bit of a life-changing experience through all of that year of your senior year. And to then go to India, I feel like when you go somewhere, you never come back fully the same, right? Because you've just experienced all these new things. How has that changed your life and shifted your perspective or enhanced your perspective?
No, it definitely has changed my life. Like I think even just getting the chance to go like at such a young age, to be able to have that experience and have that cultural knowledge is something I'm going to be so grateful for the rest of my life. Like I've always like enjoyed getting out of my comfort zone and experiencing things that are so different from like what I'm used to. But I think being able to go there and being able to meet the people there and to have that experience kind of behind me, like it really did make me realize how small my like worldview had been thus far. And I think even like coming to college, like it's been a big thing too. Like sometimes I forget that I'm like almost on the opposite side of the country from where I grew up for my entire life. And I think going to India was like that experience, but magnified.
Right.
Because I was fully on the other side of the globe. And it was all of the tiny differences that added up, I think, like getting used to how humid it was every single day, getting used to like driving around the cows that would walk through the road, getting used to there was so much that was just so beautiful, because it was something that like you wouldn't expect, but you learn to like live with, and you learn that like these other people have been living this way. And I don't mean to say that in a negative way. Like I think I and Americans in general, like it's really easy to look down on like what we consider second or third world countries, but like they knew what they were doing. Like we had a really interesting conversation at the Kalinga Institute of Technology. That was the first university that we stayed at. We went to their like public health school, and we're talking to them, and they were talking about like the advancements that India's been making in medicine and vaccination and like medical record keeping. And it was so interesting because they're making so many strides. Like a big thing that the Consul General and like as a student were talking to us about, was that everything in India is like tap to pay or electronic pay. Like that is the method of payment. Like that's how, like that's just the norm. Like I think it was, and I don't mean to sound ignorant, like I think it was really interesting to like have those expectations kind of broken, because that is kind of what you are taught. Like we have a very, like truthfully, I didn't know a lot about what life in India was like until I started like actually doing research, because I knew I was going to go. And I think getting that in-depth view, it taught me to like hold back my expectations a little bit. And I think it's something that I catch myself doing more now, where I'm like, you have to understand that like a life in a different country is not this one like homogenous thing. Like in a country that big, or even in any country, like there's going to be differences and there's going to be things you don't expect. And so I think looking for the unexpected was a big realization for me.
I think that's a really good, looking for the unexpected. I really like that. And I enjoy traveling when I can, but I think it is different, right? Like there's just different things, but you just come to be fascinated and appreciate it and curious about it, right? Like, oh, they do this a little bit differently, or could we do that a little differently, and just enjoying those experiences. So
Yeah.
now with you're back in college, or you're a freshman, like you bring probably a huge different experience and just upbringing from even the East Coast, right? Because you grew up Montana, West, we're like a state of 1 million people where we have more cows than people. So you definitely bring a unique perspective too, I'm sure, to your classmates and your roommates. But what are you excited about having that experience growing up as you did, going through EconoQuest and this trip to India to now your future at school?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really, really appreciate the fact that like I get to see I'm from Montana, and I also get to go to Yale, like, and that I got to go to India. Like, I think for me, when we went to India, or when I was applying to college, I think I always thought, not just because I was from Montana, but like the expectations I had set for myself were a little lower. I think being from a state with more cows than people, which is one of my favorite fun facts, is people about Montana. Like it can feel a lot harder to break out of that bubble, and whether that be traveling internationally or applying to these like really big, scary, feels like they're out of reach colleges, it was an intimidating experience. But I think being able to kind of cross that line, I want to make it seem easier for other students. Like I know I have a little sister who's a sophomore, and she actually just called me the other day because they're doing EconoQuest, and I'm so excited for them. So I'll
find the Lockwood students when I'm there. I only get to be there one day, but I will go and find your sister.
But like it's so exciting to not only to get to come here and share where I'm from and show that like it is possible to get to a place like this coming from a place like that, but also I think for me at least it's more exciting that I will then get to go back, or like get to stay in contact with these other people that I know, or even these people that I don't know, who can maybe feel like they're not as alone in these like ambitions, because it feels almost like you don't want to hope for something that you can't achieve, but it's so possible. Like it is so, I think we're capable of so much more than we give ourselves credit for. And that's something that I've really learned, like being here. Like I have these conversations with my suite mates and my friends, and we're all from different places. Like one of my suite mates is from California. One of my suite mates is from Boston. One of them is from Denver, Colorado. And so we're from all over the place, but we've all been brought together here, and getting to talk about where all of us are from it's so fun to me. Like it is almost like traveling in a way, because all of us are bringing these different perspectives to the table. And I think the Indian trip really broadened my horizons in a lot of ways. And I think getting to talk about it, I feel very grateful that I get to share what I've learned with the people here, because I know that it's something that it's a rare experience. And I think being able to combine where I'm from and where I've been to where I am now is a really exciting opportunity.
Yes. And I feel like you're very wise beyond your years. But I think, and I hope you are, and it sounds like you are, you should be so proud of yourself for doing that and having the perspective to be like, I want to inspire other people to dream big and think big, right? Because just because we're from a small populated state doesn't mean that we can't do these big things on a global or national scale, right? Like, and I think that you're living proof of that, and you should just be so proud of what you've accomplished so far. And we're all excited to watch you grow and do what you're going to do. I mean, we just met today, but I'm like, I can't wait to like follow your whole journey and see all of the cool things you do, because now I imagine you maybe have a desire to maybe want to travel to some other countries too.
Yes, I think that's something I'm really looking forward to, is like, there's a lot of really good study abroad opportunities here. And also just, I have the itch now to go see more places. I feel like it's so contagious.
Oh, once you go, it's like every time it's like it just pulls you back. You're like, I want to go again. When are we going? When are we going?
I know. I've heard like some of my friends, some of the people in my classes are like from India, which is a really cool experience. So I get to talk to them and they're like, you've been to India? And I'm like, I know. I wouldn't have expected that either. But they're like, we were in northern India for our whole trip, and I've heard southern India is like very different culture-wise, food-wise. And so I'm like, I feel like that would be a very fun trip. It's
been so much fun to have you on and hear your story and your perspective. Do you have anything else that like is standing out to you from being in college now for a couple months, or the trip, or just everything else you've experienced that you want to share?
It's really felt like a crazy turn of events. I think my biggest piece of like advice, or my biggest takeaway, is to put your energy into what makes you excited. Like, I feel like that is really kind of what drew me towards all of these things that ended up working out for me. And I think the more you do the things that like keep you up late at night, or keep you working more than you necessarily need to, like the things that make you excited and pull you in, like I think that says something. And don't ignore that pull when you feel it, because it's pulling you towards something.
It is pulling you towards something. I think that's a very great perspective to have. And I think things do sometimes, they just work out how they're meant to, and leaning into those things that do bring you joy. And you know, it's funny how it finds a way of like finding a job or something in that industry too, right? Like as you're looking and you're going through school and you're studying, it's leaning into those things that excite you and that you're good at, because you're going to really, like, your career will just take off because of your passion and excitement. You know, there's things that come with work too that you're like, I don't love doing that part, but the good parts should outweigh the not great parts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's been so much fun to have you on and learn a little bit about your story. So thank you for making the time. We wish you all the best at Yale, and are just so incredibly impressed by you and all that you're doing. And we can't wait for this episode to air.
Well, thank you so much, Marcel. This is like just a great opportunity, and I'm so excited to have had the chance to talk to you about it. And so grateful to the World Affairs Club and to my friends for all of their help and all of the fun experiences in the last couple of years.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your week. Yeah.
You too.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Vault. Connect with us on Facebook at The Vault at 201 North Broadway, or Instagram at TheVault_201. Or check us out on our website, thevault@201.com, where you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter. See you next time.